And we're back. This is the Colombia Calling podcast. I'm Richard Mccoll, your host here in Bogota, Colombia. This is episode 548 and will be the last episode of 2024. And we're entitling it Jazz for Peace. Of course, we're always interested in talking about peace. We're here in Colombia, of course. And my very special guest is Rick DellaRatta, who is the brains behind Jazz for Peace, well, jazzforpeace.org. Rick, welcome on the Colombia Calling podcast.
So glad to be with you here today, Richard. Thank you so much for the invite.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. We were put in touch by your assistant. Everything was incredibly smooth. And I thought, well, I saw, we get a few queries here and there, people for business, people for crypto or so on. And I'm not particularly interested in that kind of thing. But as soon as I saw the word peace, I was like, this is interesting. So perhaps you could give us a little bit of a background of what is this Jazz for Peace?
Well, basically, leading up to the events of 9/11, which I happened to see firsthand from a rooftop less than a quarter of a mile away in New York City, I had an incredible front row seat to something that's probably the last thing you'd ever want to see, but I could see it perfectly. Anyway, leading up to that, I had been a musician who had traveled around, played in all kinds of bands, all kinds of music, all kinds of styles of music, and for all kinds of people. And I saw music as something that had extraordinary powers to do things that nothing else could do. It could reach people on both sides of the aisle. It could bring common ground. It could bring commonality. It could do all kinds of things that I didn't even think had been fully tapped and explored. And I still don't think.
Mm-hmm.
One. Oops.
It's okay. It's okay.
So I basically knew a bunch of things before I ended up getting this phone call on the 11th of September from someone down on Wall Street, basically saying, something's going on, blah, blah, blah. And I said, look, let me just go up on the roof and check because I'm on the fifth floor, walk up. It's going to take me 2 seconds. I'll just open up this little trap door. And it was like, whoa, it was like walking into a movie, just walking into the screen. And at that time, things that I knew that were innate, had become a part of me from traveling all over the world, started to come out in words. And they would just be within me unless I said, let me just jot this down and purge it onto the paper so that it's not rolling around in my head. And every now and then I would jot a few words down that would just come out of me. They would just swirl around unless I purged them onto the paper. And at the end of the day on 9/11, all I had to show for it was a piece of paper with some words on it. And I'm like, okay, I'll put a title on these words. And I put the title, Jazz for Peace, was the title of the words that came out of me on that day, whether I liked it or not. It was like your water breaking. A pregnant woman is, I've never been a woman, I've never been pregnant, but, my water broke that day and it was in the form of a poem. And so here I was with these words, and basically, in a sentence, I've been trying to live up to the words of a poem every day since. And that's what's led to every single thing that Jazz for Peace has become, a benefit concert series that's helped over 850 of the world's most outstanding causes in places like South America, as well as Africa and all around the world, of course, here in the United States. But also, it's done educational things for children. It has an instrument donation program for kids. We want to arm them with a real, something that arms them is a musical instrument, as far as stimulating their intellect and all that. But now we're really got ourselves in trouble because we have answers to problems because of all the journey we've taken and the things we've done, bringing Israeli, Palestinians, and Americans together, bringing Israeli, Palestinians, and Americans together at the United Nations, things like that, working with people on both sides of the aisle, like I said. And so now we have actual answers, and what we're wondering is does the world really want to solve its problems? Are there certain people that profit so much off of these problems that they don't want us to solve them, or they won't let us solve them, or whatever? I really think that there's 8.4 billion of us, and I think if we all speak, we could get a result in a lot of areas where we all have common ground. And that's what I've been able to find. I've been able to find common ground amongst Republicans and Democrats, etc. And anything, you give me two people that are at war and I'll show you common ground.
All right, all right. Well, this is, I mean, we could use this in Colombia, definitely common ground between the polarized nature of our country here. So you are a multi-instrumentalist, you're a pianist, you're a composer, you're the founder for Jazz for Peace. And this was going to be, or you were there up there on 9/11 on your rooftop, and it was the music has to be the conduit for change, the conduit. And we've done a couple of episodes over the years about this kind of thing. There was I can't remember what it's called. It's like the traveling piano, and Colombian and foreign musicians have brought a piano to some of the most far off places in Colombia, like airlifted it in to play the piano in jungle areas. Colombia is a lot of an unknown quantity, I believe, to people in the United States, a lot of people around the world. We don't have a lot of infrastructure. We have.
Now, you've got this place, QE dot, and I don't want to lose that thought, keep that thought, but there is this place that you're talking about it. I've got people that said, you're going to be on a show from Colombia. Can you ask him about Ciudad Perdida, also known as Teyana and Buritica 200? And you told me off camera that you have heard of this, some kind of a lost city?
Yeah, you butchered the word, but that's okay. It's Ciudad Perdida.
Okay.
Ciudad is a soft C, or Teyuna, Buritica 2000. I've been there. I went many years ago. It's a 4 to 5 day hike up into the mountains of the Sierra Nevada, which are a mountain range up on the Caribbean coast of Colombia, and it's still populated. It's a lost city to those of us in, let's say, Northern Europe or North America, but to the Aboriginal, the original settlers, the original tribes, the Tayuna, the Tairona, the Kogi people. These people still use it as a sacred place and live around about. And it's a number of sacred platforms built into the jungle. Architecturally, it's interesting, but it's not like a Machu Picchu citadel in Peru. It's very much far more natural, I would say, and it's a phenomenal hike into the highlands up there, and really something where you learn a great deal about, because you are with the indigenous people there, the Teyuna. So for any of your friends or any of your listeners who are interested in this, fly into the Caribbean coast, head up to Santa Marta, which is along towards Venezuela. And from there, you can organize these hikes. And, there will be camping each night, hammocks or tents, and the food provided, but it's great fun. And you do feel an energy there. It is a different place. It is a sacred place. So, yeah, it's one of those places where I think maybe once I won't do it again. I don't need to do the hike again, unless my kids, when they grow up a bit more, want to do it. And they want me to go, I'll go. But I loved it.
1,200 steps or something, I've heard.
Yeah, that's the last part. There's the steps built in, but it's so the first 3 days is just up and down over foothills. And if it's the rainy season, the mud is up to your knees. That's what makes it hard.
Well, I want to go there when I bring Jazz for Peace to Colombia, hopefully through this podcast. But I'll tell you what my friends are saying is the word about this place is that it's way beyond something that, like you could even, I don't know. These people were extremely advanced, and they're wondering how it is possible that these people that come from, founded in 800 AD, something like that, could have done this, could have created this. It's mind-boggling. It's not a lot of people, but there are some people that are looking at this like, how is this even possible? So I don't know. Are people wondering and like, what the heck? How did this happen? How was something like this built of this magnitude?
Well, it is one of those places. I say architecturally, you sort of stand back and go, yes, this was a lot of hard work. I think what is most amazing is it still remains intact today. These platforms out there. It's a special place, but it's again, it's sacred to the local people, and we always have to recognize that it's theirs and not ours, and we are visitors. And what is so incredible with the Kogi people who are the indigenous people from there, is they refer to us as little brothers. They are the older brothers and we are the little brothers, because we do not know as much as them about the environment and the natural existence of things in this area. And I think that's a good way of putting it into a different context. And then down onto the beach, because when you come walking down, it's some of the most beautiful beaches in the world on the Colombian Caribbean, in a park called Tayrona National Park. There is an agreement between the government and the indigenous, how you say it, committee, to shut the beaches and shut the park for a period of time every single year for it to have a healing. Yeah, so there is an understanding of this special relationship the Tayrona and the Kogi have with nature. So that's what's really special about it. And we are just the little brothers because we don't know as much.
Well, I just wanted you to know that for some people that are in the know, this place is teeming with some magical things. People that look at it have no idea how it could have been created at that time based on what they tell. In other words, they think we're getting the wrong information about history, and maybe this place had, abilities and technologies or things that we weren't really properly reported about or that are not included in the history or whatever. It's mysterious. Let's put it that way.
It's mysterious.
It's a mysterious place, boy.
Well, it's fascinating to me that this is the place that your friends have asked about, aside from, not the obvious, let's say, tourism destinations in Colombia.
Right.
As you are up in the US, are you in New York at the moment? Is that where you are?
I'm in New York, but it's actually the one friend of mine that's really bothered me to ask you is that he's a kind of a guru type of guy.
Okay.
So that makes sense, right?
Yeah, it would make sense to me. But it's interesting to me is that I just last week, I gave a talk to 12 visitors from the United States about Colombian politics and what's going on. They were here. But the knowledge is very limited about really what's going on. What I like asking people is when someone says Colombia to you, what do you think about? What are the first things that come into your head?
The first thing that comes into a lot of people's head is, Pablo Escobar, they know the basic little things, that wacky, crazy story of him or whatever and all of that stuff, but very little about, what the people are really like, what is, what the country is really like. And like I said, I wanted to get Jazz Rapice to Colombia, and, there's been some communication here and there, but I've never actually made it to Colombia. And when Jazz Rapice comes, that's when I really understand, because when I go to a country with Jazz Rapice, I go, a tourist, you could never duplicate the experience of Jazz Rapice. I mean, one time I read this thing where these billionaires say their greatest vacation, they all listed their greatest vacation as the Masai Mara out in, the Great Migration. And they had a video of what they did. And I'm like, that's nothing compared to when Jazz Rapice went there, because we went there to save the Masai Mara, and we worked with the indigenous people, and we worked with the landowners, and we got them to sign agreements through the Mccoll Alurianito Conservancy Trust. And we brought indigenous people to a museum in Nairobi for a celebration and a concert, and they performed along with, it was a wild, so you couldn't, these poor billionaires is what I thought. This was their favorite vacation. I was like, oh, these poor guys.
So when you say that save the Masai Mara, it's save the land for the people.
Well, there's a bunch of things going on up there. Actually, you might be able to put like Jazz Rapice saving the Masai Mara into something and get these videos and stuff. But you'll see video footage of me out there. Basically, there was a organization called the Mccoll Alurianito Trust. They had heard that we had gone to Rwanda, and they had heard that the results were unbelievable when we tried to bring that country out of the genocide and welcome that back into the world, of which they flourished. Rwanda has flourished since that day. I'm not going to take credit for it, but I'm just saying they asked us to come down there. We came down there and do what we felt was the right thing. And they wanted us to come out there and basically the Conservancy Trust wanted to get agreements going to protect the wild. There was three things. The wildlife had to be protected, the indigenous people had to be protected, and the Mara River. So there were issues of the Mara River. There were people burning charcoal, and there were issues. They were polluting the river upstream, downstream, those kinds of things that protect the river. Now that affects animals. It also affects indigenous Maasai people, And so they took me out there. I met with the Maasai people. I mean, we would never make it to Colombia if we started this conversation on that, because you could talk for days. But what I experienced was phenomenal, because I was brought there by African people who, they know this as their backyard, and they're telling me about the animals and describing how they operate, and describing things to me that, you just could never experience. You couldn't experience. I couldn't buy the experience. You know what I mean? I couldn't go over there with all the money in the world and buy that experience. So it was an incredible thing.
So let's get this. When you go to a place is picked out, Rwanda, let's say. When you go, what exactly do you do? What is the format of Rick DellaRatta with Jazz for Peace?
Jazz for Peace provides two things, not one thing. And that's what's important. People look at Jazz for Peace and they think something. In fact, the people who talk the most think that they'll research the least. The more they research, the less questions they have for me, because they see that their questions are getting answered. But when they look at it, it's so like, oh, these guys play jazz. They just play jazz and expect the world to be saved. They play some music, expect who knows what they think? I don't know. But what we provide is two things, and you got to provide both, not just one. We provide a world-class cultural event at no cost to you if you're an outstanding cause in Colombia, let's say, okay? But what are you going to do with that if you don't know what to do with a world-class cultural event? What's a food bank going to do with a world-class cultural event if they've never put one on? So the second thing we provide is the expertise, the guidance, the advocacy, all of the things, the staffing, all of the things that you need to make the event a success. And when I mean success, we don't just mean raising funds, because everyone's been throwing funds at things and watching it get worse. You throw money at it, it gets even worse. In San Francisco, the budget for homeless gets higher and higher and higher every year. And guess what else gets higher and higher? The homeless gets higher and higher. So the more money, the more homeless. That's all we've learned about that. So what we are doing is trying to bring things that are sustainable, such as, point one. We have little slogans. Help us plant the roots so we can grow your empowerment tree. Okay? So what are the roots? The roots is basically the VIP room. If you go to Jazz for Peace Brazil, if you go to jazzforpeace.org / I think it's Brazil09.html. But anyway, you can see, and also we have a WordPress site where you can actually see this VIP room, because we shot it in Brazil, just for the example for people to look at. And these are the people who make up the organization, okay? And it starts with a little comment from like the founder. Somebody comes across us and makes a comment from the organization. How would you like us to turn your comment into sustainability for your organization? Oh my God, how are you going to do that? What are you, Jesus figure or something? No. We're going to take the comment. That's a seedling. We're going to create a little one page for you to show what we want to achieve for you. And they're going to read your comment, and they're going to give their comment based on what they read. Those little comments create roots. You see what I mean? And what those names and comments are is a VIP list, because we make them all VIP guests of honor at the event. And now all we need to do is expand that, because if you look at a tree, we're exactly like a tree. The tree has these core roots, and then they have these little twigs that are expanded when you look at the actual roots. We want to expand it. So some other people might also do the same thing. Hey, let me take this document. Let me get my VIP list for my friends and blah, blah, blah. Now what we have is the roots, and we have half of our slogan, help us plant the roots. You helped us plant the roots. Good. Now we can grow your empowerment tree. How much more simple does it get, right? These guys helped us plant the roots, so we have a confirmed event with this organization and their periphery, people they want to bring in, people that are on the outside but never really got their hands dirty. We want to bring them in through this event. So now they're all VIPs at the event. We got a full VIP room of people. Now we can grow all of the rest. With a confirmed event, we can now, one of the first things we can do is, we have the venue, the date, all that. So we know Jazz for Peace is coming on that day. We can go out into the community and get local business sponsors, because they'll look at it and they'll like, even if they haven't heard of the organization, we'll tell you should have heard of them and check them out. They're good. We stand by you. And it's to your benefit, buddy, to get on board here and be a sponsor. So now we bring on these local business sponsors. They often stay with the organization year after year. That's what we found out from them calling us up 3 years later. Hey, we just want you to know they're still with us. So we got the local, that's another branch number 2. From there, you've got local business sponsors. You've got a confirmed event. It's an international event. It's got a great reputation from all the, things that Jazz for Peace has done, all the crazy things we've done. And now we can go after publicity and awareness. That's another branch that's going to help that organization. Then we can go after other things, new and prestigious supporters. When you look at the famous names, the Masai Mara, I don't, she's going to get mad at me. I hope not. But our wonderful person that worked with you that you said, she's one of the reasons she is so wonderful is because when I went on that one, that branch, I wanted the Prime Minister of Kenya contacted because I had done some research on that Prime Minister, and he had said that he needed all the things that we were out there doing. He had gone on the BBC and said, "This is the world. We need the world to be involved in this. We can't fix this by ourselves," and all this stuff. So, but when I got to Kenya, I was like, "Hey, did you guys cut what Prime Minister? What are you talking about, Prime Minister?" So I got back to that volunteer now. That's probably why she does such a great job. I said, what do you mean? What Prime Minister is going to do that? I said, you don't understand. We have to do the process. You know what I mean? You can't just decide. You can't play God and decide that you've decided that the Prime Minister is probably not going to pay attention to this, so we won't contact him. We follow the program. And I said, we've got to complete branch number 7 for this organization, and that's new and prestigious supporters. So we've got to get this, and I told the people, I said, your Prime Minister's got to know about this. I mean, the President of the United States knows about Jazz for Peace. Look at the letter we got from him. So, you got to do this. So, and sure enough, we got a letter from the Prime. And then when she saw this, she was like, oh, you know what I mean? Like, I get it now. In other words, we follow the process for each branch. And the tree looks unique because every tree out there looks unique. So you might see a tree where the publicity went berserk. I don't know why. We got lucky, and the new and prestigious supporters, we just got to, something. But that's the tree. We follow each program and we end up with an empowerment tree. And that's what can help an organization for years and years down the road. And you'd be surprised. I mean, the stories are never going to be alike. So no one can say like, well, when you went to what happened? It's not when I went to Nepal, I caused so much trouble. I had no idea that the whole country was going to get involved and they were passing resolutions in time for the Jazz for Peace to show up. I had no idea, and that story would drive you crazy because I showed up in Nepal, and I don't want to get too far off of Colombia. We got to get to Colombia, but I just want to tell you how crazy it can get. I showed up in Nepal once, and they were like, okay, they have this meeting. It's late at night, too. And they have this meeting. I'm tired. They're like, okay, we got to get up early because the traffic. They're on and on with this traffic, right? I'm like, look, I got the memo. I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to sleep all the way through when I wake up. We're on it. We have everyone's coming. We're going to meet at this time. You got to be down in the lobby where there's breakfast. We're all going to have breakfast. All these things are going to be done. I get up that morning a little bit late. I'm like, oh my God, why didn't somebody buzz me? I go downstairs, nobody. There's people eating the brunch, but nobody's supposed to meet me. You know what I mean? Where are all these people? What's going on with this traffic? I have breakfast. I can't even find anybody. Finally, a guy shows up, one of the people, relax, no big deal. So I have breakfast with him. I'm like, maybe these people are just uptight at night and laid back in the morning. I don't know. And I said to him, listen, because after a while, as times went by, no one else is showing up. I said, because I wanted to go swimming. There's this pool, and I really needed to just swim off that 23-hour-and-a-half plane ride. Yeah, go swimming. Go swimming. What happened to it? So I go swimming because I'm not going to turn down the chance to go swimming. I'm not turning that down. I don't care. I'm not going to ask you more questions. You said go swimming, I go swimming. And I'm swimming, and finally we go. We go out into the street. The traffic. Remember I told you the traffic? We got to go early. The traffic.
Oh yeah.
There's no cars, Richard. There's not a single. We are the only car in the entire city of Kathmandu. It's just us driving. Finally, I said, what the hell is going on here? And they said, well, this is what happened. We passed a resolution yesterday to take a stand against India for our, liberation, for jazz for peace, because jazz for peace, we had to get passport, and India cut off our oil and gas.
But okay.
They cut them off. So we
Yeah.
drove. We were the only car because they're the only ones that can get gas. So nobody could drive. So that's what I'm saying. Now, it did get resolved during the time I was there. And it was some days there would be a zillion cars and some days there would be no cars because it was this back and forth thing going on. But I'm just telling you the crazy stories. But let's get back to Colombia because we do want to get Jazz Repeats to Colombia and find out what the heck is going on over there in that country.
Well, plenty going on. But we have lots of jazz festivals. I mean, we do.
Okay.
We have lots of music festivals and so on. But what kind of? I mean, are we looking at Miles Davis jazz? Are we looking at Chet Baker jazz? What kind of jazz are we looking at with you, Rick?
Let's play some of that jazz right now. Let's see what we can do. Okay, so I mean, when I went to Brazil, a promoter, the first time I ever went to Brazil, this promoter contacted me and he said, you sing like Chet Baker and you play the piano like Bill Evans, and those are two of my favorite jazz musicians, so I'm bringing you to Brazil. And that's how I ended up. And my third CD is called Live in Brazil. Mm-hmm. And I was being brought to Brazil because of the American jazz artists that this person felt I emulated. But in America, I was more well known as a Brazilian jazz artist because I was playing in a band called Peggy Boy, Pedeboi, 3 words. Yeah. Peggy Boy, that was their name. I didn't know what it means to this day, but 14, they had 14-piece band, 8 percussion players. And I was playing with them and they were teaching me Portuguese, how to sing in Portuguese and stuff like that. And so a lot of the people, I was more famous as a Brazilian musician, even though I wasn't Brazilian, they thought I was. People would come up to me, speak to me in Portuguese, And so it's crazy. I was an American jazz musician only when I went to Brazil. In America, I was a Brazilian jazz musician. So there's albums would come out where they would tell me, we're making Brazilian All-Stars and we want you on it. What am I going to do? I'm not going to tell them I'm not Brazilian. So I just said, okay, what song do I give them a song? There's an album right over here. I have all my albums, and then you'll see Brazilian All-Star, all these Brazilian people and me. So, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. This is just the way the life is crazy. I'm going to play something. I'm going to play a little something because it's Christmas time. So this is a little Latin version of a Christmas song that I came up for a CD I did a long time ago called Jazz at Christmas Time. And then I'm going to go into a song called Mais Que Nada. It's a Brazil.
Okay. Sergio Mendes.
Yes. And then somehow I might give you a little Miles Davis. We don't know. I might give you, yeah. So we might get into that. Let's just see. I don't know what I'm going to do, and I shouldn't as a jazz musician. Should I really know what I'm going to do before I play? No, I don't know what I'm going to do, and that's just the way it should be. So let's see what happens here. Hoje o samba está animado, que samba, esse samba que eu me de maracatu, samba de preto, samba de nada, samba com você tá legal, você não pare que aí,
Very nice indeed. Very nice. Like, well, Mashkinada, of course, I know very well. There was some green sleeves in there before.
That was green sleeves.
Mixed.
Remember, I told you
Yeah.
I was gonna sneak in because it's it's I don't know when this is
Yeah.
coming out, but it's Christmas
It's
time here.
Christmassy. It's an ancient song, isn't it? Green Sleeves. Yeah, well, thank you very much. That was quite special. I've had someone sing Bollywood on before, but I've never had Sergio Mendes. I've never had Green Sleeves and someone playing the piano. You are obviously, a very skilled pianist there. So thank you for that. That'll be a different Christmas style episode.
Well, I did a record called Jazz at Christmas Time because the Christmas music was driving me nuts. I mean, every Christmas I'm like, oh my God, I got to deal with a month of this. The same, they just bombard you and they blast it at you, and it's the same goofy, wacky, idiot stuff. And I thought, if I make a CD, maybe I'll hear something different at Christmas time every year. And so I made a CD, Jazz at Christmas Time. Of course, at the same time, you've got to have, who's that? What was that drug smuggler's name from Colombia? You've got to have some of his backing or whatever to get it played. But I do. It's interesting. I do that. The CD would be played like my the place where I live would play it in their lobby. The health club would play it. I would show up to play somewhere and like at a Club Med or something in Colorado, and I'd show up at midnight and it would be playing in the thing. So it plays, but it just doesn't play, where you have to have, where you have to muscle somebody to get them to play. It's not going to play in the payola places.
Well, I think the message here is one of, let's say, universal friendship through music, universal understanding through music. You are clearly you are a positive person, and that comes across in your conversation and how you play music. And well, I wish you all the best with continued for Jazz for Peace, which obviously began out of disaster and tragedy,
Right.
and is now stretching out there to spread, I would say, again, a more universally hopeful message.
Well, here's the thing. We all get along in certain areas, and I can point to things on our website where we didn't. So don't say I'm trying to do it. It's crazy. Here's this crazy conspiracy. They're going to say something. No. I mean, if you want to see Republicans and Democrats getting along, you go to jazzforpeace.org/Vegas, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you just click on the PDF, and the PDF comes down, and you see all these people that can't stand each other. And I went to the guy and I said, what are they all doing here? I see them on the freaking news. They hate each other. He said, they're here for the children. They're here for, they're here for our state. They're here. They love Nevada. They love the kids, and they love the message of Jazz for Peace. So, it is possible. It's just that, you guys, here's what we have to do, Richard. And I'm going to try to say this nicely because I said it a couple days ago. And that's, someone said, I don't know if it was that same volunteer, maybe it was another volunteer said, you sounded too angry, too mad. But I mean, can't you get pissed off once in a while? I'm going to try to say it nicely. We need to take funding for war that is at 100%. No one's disagreed. It's not at 100, right? You've got funding for peace. Where's that? It's at zero. Okay. And we've got to take funding for war and bring it down to 99. That's all I'm asking, by the way. I can do this with 99. Funding for world peace, bring it up to 1%. And these things will be resolved. Give me 1% world peace. Because if you go to jazzforpeace.wordpress.com/about, if you type that into your computer, jazzforpeace.wordpress.com is a site that has those things like the VIP room from Brazil that I was telling you about. But if you add a /about and just click on there, that's a page that not a single word is from us. It's all from our benefit concert recipients and all of them, that what they say in their own words. And you look at what we've done with zero. That's how I'm confident we can resolve these issues at 1%.
Okay.
And
Well, we
that's how much more powerful peace is than war, by the way. You need trillions of dollars with war, you know.
hmm.
And you give me 1%, and I can beat 99 if you give me one.
Well, we wait for you here in Colombia. We need more. I would, creativity down here.
Richard, all I need is an outstanding cause to give the funds to. And this is why that's hard, because there's tons of nonprofits. We don't know which one is legitimate, which one is really going to get the job done, which one is to be promoted. We need someone in Colombia to identify an outstanding cause, because otherwise we don't have the resources to research every nonprofit and try to figure out, separate the wheat from the chaff. So we would need someone in Colombia to say, hey, I've got this one. What do I give them? What stuff do I show? Show them this link. Show them that. And we get them to help us plant the roots, just like they did, just like the Dalits did in southern India. And I had someone freak out the other day because she goes to India and she has a big presence there. And she's like, the Dalits got a grant from Joshua Peace. I said, they did. She said, anybody can do this if the Dalits did it, because they're the lowest caste system in the whole world. And they got a grant. They followed our steps. So that's what we need for Colombia. The same thing. We need to know who is the outstanding cause that we're helping. That's all we need.
Mm-hmm. Well, which there's many. Well, I think this is a wonderful moment to bring our conversation to an end and say thank you so much to Rick DellaRatta for his time and, of course, sharing the message of Jazz for Peace, and most importantly, I think, sharing that music, which was great and was made for a great change on the podcast. So listen to everyone. We'll put the links up on all of our social media. You'll find them all there, all the links to Jazz for Peace, and we'll check it out. And Rick, thank you very much, and have a great Christmas period.
Likewise, Richard. Thank you. It's a great time.
It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to Rick DellaRatta from Jazz for Peace. This has been Colombia Calling. I've been Richard Mccoll, and the final episode of 2024. We'll be back in early 2025, covering all things to do with Colombia, of course. If you want to support us, go to patreon.com/Colombia Calling. We are there, and you can promote us and so on, support us, ensure us our financial viability. But anyhow, that's me signing off for today with Rick DellaRatta. Thank you again. Have a great holiday for those who celebrate, and a wonderful new year. And we'll be back in 2025. Goodbye all.